whenever you're playing R&B on guitar, there's a lot of things that you want to think about. One of the first things that I like to think about is chord structure. And when I'm thinking about the chords, is what kind of chords that I want to play and why do I want to play those chords? So if I have a progression, let's say it's 2, 3, 6, right? I'm thinking about like, how can I make that resonate a little bit better than just playing the basic 2, 3, then 6, which sound good, but I wanted to have a little bit more presence to it. So I'm thinking about how I can take out certain notes or kind of change the chord a little bit. Or even add notes. And then also the striking of the strings, like the percussiveness. Like even the most subtle hammer on. And then having something to fill up that space. Those are the things that you want to think about, because again, you can have that where you're just hanging on that dead space and it's just like it's empty, and you don't want yourself to be empty, but you also don't want to fill it up so much to where it's just like there's no room for anything else. So the subtle movements that you can use, like the double stop movement, is a great example of how you can fill up that space. It's tasteful and it doesn't take away from what you're doing. So think about an idea like this. Get used to that, how that feels, that pattern. You don't want to do that every single time, but you want to have stuff to where like you're learning how to fill up space tastefully, because you can do a whole bunch of stuff that fills up space and it won't be tasteful. You always want to remember that whenever you're playing, to be tasteful, because placement is everything. Now, once you get really comfortable with that movement, you can start thinking about other ideas that you can have in order to move around that simplicity of that movement. So what I would do is, I'm always trying to think of, what can I do to add to the song that doesn't take away, that still adds an element where the guitar is present? And I like to think like a bass player. Again, it's just one of those things where I've been doing it for a minute, so I know how to kind of look at it. I'm thinking about the movements. So I'm hearing that. So I know that with those notes have to come chords. So if I did it in the progression, so those are the two things that I've done to add to this simple progression. Now, what I want to do now is I want to bounce between the two so that I get used to like augmenting between, and that I have different options. So here's the first example. Second one. And the thing that you're hearing all this kind of movement, like all of that stuff is important. You want to add those kind of little different like elements and textures to your playing, because that adds character to the exercise and the progression that you're doing that you can do real time. So those are examples of just a sweep, like that, ooh, that sweeping of the strings kind of like ghost noting everything and then just sliding down. Those different adds little textures and elements to your playing. So those are some great ideas, things that you can use when you want to add some texture to your playing.